Don't mind me, I'm just getting in the zone. But hello to bad storytelling. I know, woo, woo, you have no idea what the hell this is. Um, but over the progression of these live streams, I am going to lay out a really complicated world. And I'm hoping that I can, from start to finish, do it in such a way that it's at least understandable. But I'm really bad at this. Terrible at storytelling. I am doing it in first person because or not first person. I am doing this on live. Reason is because I don't like recording and saving videos to my laptop for some reason, so I just do everything live. So this will also be live. So even though I'm just talking to a void and no one watches these live streams right now anyways, if perchance that this actually goes somewhere and people pay attention to this, you will be able to catch this live. I don't have a schedule, but hopefully around every other day we'll be doing this, and then every other day from that we'll be doing Rainbow Six Siege gameplay. I do not know how to get started, and yes, we are going to be playing Powerwash Simulator, mainly because I figured it'd just be a great game to do this off of. I mean, if I needed to, I can draw, a little... Hold on. Give me a second. I'm gonna draw little shitty pictures. I shouldn't be swearing through these. Hopefully, if I can not swear, I can make these more educational based, but yeah, I can draw little pictures if I need to. Draw a little face here. Introduce some characters, things like that. So I figured, we're gonna be doing this off of Powerwash Simulator. This is... should know this. Is it alive? Oh my gosh, it is alive. Here, buddy, now you can see. Is that better? That's crazy. But let's stop stalling, I guess, and just jump right into the storytelling. To start it off, I'm going to explain the literal beginnings of this universe. Little context, this does take place in a multiverse. But we will specifically be talking about a pocket universe that was created by 7 gods. These 7 gods came into this universe, and each one with their different control over reality partaked in essentially just creating a universe kind of similar to ours. Because that's how the multiverse works, and that's a great way to explain a different universe. Well, as they created this universe, the 7 gods came across other entities that were born out of their universe that happened to be incredibly powerful. Not really as powerful as them, just incredibly powerful entities that could do some pretty insane stuff. Examples of this is like there's the god of immortality, which, as the name implies, he just couldn't die. Nothing they threw at him killed him. Everything, he just kind of regenerated, and it wasn't like, he took a couple years to regenerate body parts. It was, you could disintegrate him, the smallest atom would regenerate to full and stuff, and he was insane. Not to mention he had an insane strength. fucking punch you and all of a sudden you're halfway across the fucking city, thrown through walls, and yeah, he's supposed to be really strong, immortal, whole gimmick. I only use him as an example because he's one of my favorite characters. But there are other gods. I mean, there's the god of electricity, god of life, god of fire. There's even some weird ones like the god of luck and charm, which is, as implies, just like almost an unbelievably amount lucky and very charismatic and can convince pretty much anyone to do anything. Which, funny enough about that one, a lot of the gods actually question if that was like even a power of his or something, like if he was even powerful or if he was just a mortal that was just incredibly lucky and charming. And as the numbers grew, it came down to 23 of the smaller gods, with the 7 bigger gods reigning over them and stuff. And humanity was created and a bunch of other bullshit. Universe burst into life and stuff, and all this and that. Fun and games. Well, one of our smaller gods, one that will become kind of a very main side character. Main character, but not main character. The goddess of darkness. As implies, she's very dark heart and stuff, just complete evil. Pretty much has control over all shadows and darkness in general, and can do a lot with it, including making darkness of her own. Like, she doesn't need natural shadows. She can just cast shadows at will and a whole bunch of stuff, including having control over how light shines over her, pretty much making it that she can go invisible. Cool shit. Not important. She goes up to the 7 gods with this crazy idea, right? She's like, I want to know which one of us is the best, and I think we should take champions and give them our abilities, and we should just have them fight, because it'd be funny as fuck, and we'd get to see which one of these gods would be the most powerful. Fucking humans would probably be the champions, so it'd be fun to watch the humans fight each other, all this bullshit. And the 7 gods of above were kind of like, nah, like we're omniscient, right? We don't need shit like this. Like, why would we care who's the best? Like, we're all the best. The fuck? She's pissed, runs off, throws a tantrum, and ends up coming across a secret, and uses this secret to essentially obliterate 27 gods, leaving only 3 alive. I should be clear that she started with the 7 gods of, space and above and power and all that, the really powerful ones. She killed those 7 first and put them all into a singular amulet, an amulet that she wears around her neck, granting her the same powers that all 7 of the space gods have, basically making her God, however you want to put it. She's very interesting. Well, she also goes along and kills 20 of the other gods, the smaller gods, and each one gets their own little specialized amulet. And she does leave 3 of them alive. Herself. She's not going to kill herself because that's stupid. She just gave herself all this power. Yeah, you get it. Then she goes and leaves the god of death alive, because it's darkness, death, they gotta have something going on between them. At this point, it's unclear if they're brother and sister, or if they're their girlfriend or boyfriend, husband, wife, if they're just long time friends. They don't really engage a lot, but there's always like some chemistry or something between them. Not important to the main story, though. So he gets left alive. And she actually didn't decide about the third one being left alive. She didn't get a say in that one. The third one happened to be the god of time, which, while being not one of the, the amazing space gods, he was pretty powerful in his own right, pretty much rivaling them. He just didn't care for responsibility. And his he's complicated, but he controls time. So he watched one of the other smaller gods died, and he froze time immediately and just disappeared because he was like, "Nope, I am not dealing with this. Not my problem. I'm good." And off he goes. And so that just leaves the goddess of darkness with her 20 amulets and an idea. And I think that's kind of where the main story begins. We got our world, essentially God mad, kill other gods, give God powers, dun 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 dun, to human beings. If you haven't figured that out already. She goes around and chooses 20 human beings and give them their powers. And when it comes to these amulets, there's special rules. Now, first off, the original gods are so much more powerful than the amulets because she cannot give human beings or mortals the full comprehension of those abilities. I mean, it's human beings, unknown. We all know how Eldritch Horror goes. They're not going to understand shit. So she regulates the power so that it only gives off so much. And essentially every amulet has an equal amount of power. Actually, not essentially. Like, for sure, every amulet has an equal amount of power. And another rule of these amulets is that each person who's given an amulet has 7 lives. To explain a little bit more, essentially when they die, they get they just Athena! Athena, get over here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Cats and dogs. Oh, hey. Armpits. Just slowly go over, Take a second. So, small recap because I like to repeat myself. First rule, powers are regulated. Second rule, each person who gets a life gets 7 lives. And I will, you know what, we'll get into it later as we get deeper into the story and stuff. And then, of course, there is the third rule, which is each amulet is not given at the same time. So it's not just 20 people get it. Each one is given at certain times. And it's hard to explain the certain times and why they're given, but it's essentially to make it fair. To make it so that one god doesn't overpower the rest. And that's like, that has to do with Rule 2 and the complication that I'll get into later. But again, we'll get into that later as the story gets deeper and you'll kind of see it unfold itself. So, we start off with our first character that we're introduced to, which I'm going to have to rewrite names and stuff because I feel like I want to redo their names. But for now, we'll go off of the amulets that they are given. So the first amulet that is given is the Amulet of Immortality, the one that we talked about in the beginning. It's given to very shady character, always wears a hood, no one ever sees his face. And as it starts, is I don't want to work in the Undercity. That sounds gay. That's offensive. Maybe if I go kiss a guy, I'll be fine. Gosh, that's offensive. Let's get back to the bad storytelling. I'm just should not be reading what people are sending me. So he seems to be in love with this girl as they meet as a tree, but unfortunately the girl is a princess and the king is unhappy about this relationship and finds out the guy's weakness, which no one really, like, it's not that easy. Not even the original gods could figure out the original god's weakness. So yeah, it's kind of unknown how this certain random king in the middle of nowhere found it out, but he did. So now the god of immortality, or the amulet of immortality, let's just call them a god. They're all amulets, all humans, but we'll call them gods. The god of immortality goes on the run, and as he gets to an edge of the cliff, he's faced with the decision of jumping to his death into his weakness, or letting the king kill him with his weakness. And being very prideful, he doesn't want to die to the king, he jumps off the cliff, going to meet his death. But of course, as he feels the wind falling and he falls to his death, a portal opens up right below him, falling through and hitting a wall. As he falls, I should mention in the scenery, he's like running through a forest and he jumps off near a waterfall, so it's cold, it's windy, it's misty, and as he falls through this portal, everything shifts to like almost the complete opposite. It's the wet air is now completely dry, it's hot, and the like as he lands into sand. And I should mention that these are the medieval times, so he doesn't have any shoes on. He's kind of just wearing some basic trousers, and again this weird hooded cloak thing that he just kind of always wears. And he feels sand beneath his feet. He falls essentially from a desert straight into it, or sorry, he falls from a forest cliff straight into a desert. As he gains not conscious, but comes back to reality and realizes what's happening and that he's not falling to his death. He hears screaming. He hears people running and stuff. There's these giant, let's say, explosions, but not like lasers, but it's not lasers. And as he, walks out around, he finds, he's in an alley in between these two buildings. Like I said, when he fell through, he just kind of hit a brick wall. he walks out and he comes to this site of this giant shadow-like creature, which it's kind of like if you think of like a shadow demon, giant smile, big glowing eyes, kind of like really formy, however you want to imagine it. That's what he looks like. He kind of has like a crown atop his head. Um, he's a evil shadow creature. That's the best explanation you're gonna get, as we just very, very badly wash all this. Although some parts are getting clean, so we're getting there. But the shadow creature is like having these weird, also like shadow humanoid features come out of his like more bottom, because he's huge. He's like 3 stories tall, towering over everyone, laughing and like throwing these like black shadow ball stuff. It's basically being a dick. The fuck did I do? Oh, okay. There's a cat. So he doesn't really know what to do, but as everything comes into focus, we actually shift to our main cast of characters. The first main character is a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, darkish skin kid. He's, at this point, I'd say he's like 13, 14 maybe. He's screaming and he's trying to like fight off. His name is Larvatum. One of the few characters that I actually have a good name for and stuff, and we'll get into his name later, but I decided Larvatum. Judge me all you want. Pulling, like, there's this girl with him who she's trying to, like, get him to stop fighting and run away because this is stupid and they're gonna die type thing. She is pinkish hair, which is very strange because it's, again, medieval times, so there's no one with pink hair. She's like an oddity, but she has pink hair, purple eyes, and she, I don't know, that's the best description you're gonna get. Pink hair, purple eyes. Let's go with that. You can imagine the rest, however you want to see it. Which is kind of gonna be how it is for a lot of these characters, is you come up with the imagery. I'm gonna give you basic descriptions, and you can decide from there how everything else fits into the picture. So there's the third character I should get into, which he's also, again, weird. So the girl and the guy there, I should have mentioned the girl's darker skin. The girl and the guy are African, or they're in Africa. They are Egyptian specifically. I'll have to go back into my notes and actually remember what they are, but they're darker skin. And then this third character, he's white, like white as I get. He has black hair, dark eyes, and I'm getting distracted by cleaning this thing. I need a ladder over here. Can I move this? Yeah. He's like, he at this point is the interesting one of the group. So he has this weird ability where if he kills someone, he can control their spirit in like a shadow form, essentially. Um, his name is Blake. Again, for the female, I can't remember her name. She has one, but I don't remember it. We'll call her Haruka. Yeah, I'm never gonna remember that, but Haruko, that's her name. And then he is Blake. Again, very white. Like these two, like it. We'll get into their backstory later because they'll talk about it. So boys screaming, crying, fighting. Larvitum screaming, crying, fighting. Haruku. Need a name I can remember. Marrow. Marina. Marrow. Let's go with Marrow. Or Mare Barrow. Barrow? Everyone calls her Miss Barrow. Yep, let's go with that. So Miss Barrow. So we got Larvitum, Blake, Miss Barrow. They are essentially our main cast of characters. Also, I should mention Blake is also fighting. They're all fighting, but the Miss Sparrow is trying to get Larvitum out of the fight because he's younger than the other two. The other two are around 18 and are actual like full-bred, born warriors, with Miss Sparrow being very good at fighting. She's again, we'll get into it later. So the god of immortality, he sees what's going on, so he comes in and he's like, "Hey, I'll help and stuff." And he goes in. These like shadow characters are shadow like mortal things are very easy to destroy, but they seem like very intuitive in fighting and stuff. So essentially all it takes to destroy them is just a really fast or hard impact to them. So essentially just fight them like normal. But yeah, like I said, they're incredibly intelligent, and as there's a bunch of them, it seems like they are a hive mind. They're all connected to each other. Am I crouch? No. I don't know why I thought I crouched on my knee. So finally, the Larvitum, he ends up getting stabbed, and they are trying to kidnap him, but God of Immortality ends up just beating them up because he's cool, right? He helps drag the boy to the girl, and the boy's kind of like bleeding out, so the girl like tries to take some band, like rips off some of her shirt, you know, good old fashioned movie style, wraps him up and stuff. The Miss Barrow asks the God of Immortality if she can, or if he can take the boy away from this location while they try to while they try to get people out and try to, you know, essentially save the day, because they're the warriors of this village that this guy just showed up in, and they're the ones that are supposed to protect. And again, with this boy getting in the way, they kind of can't do that. So he agrees, picks up the boy, you know, princess style, and just like I said, his abilities are of immortality are, for one, he's really, really strong. When it comes to the amulets, compared to all the other amulets, he is the strongest. Like, he has the absolute most strength. Um, way later on in the story, he actually ends up just jumping from Earth to the moon and punches straight into the moon. And it's like a different story, not involving these characters, but involving other characters and stuff. And that's a whole different thing. Um, his other two abilities have to relate with the fact that he is the god of immortality. He can switch between these two abilities, but essentially one of them is always active. One ability is constant regeneration. Like I said, he'd be disintegrated and from an atom could regenerate all the way back to his full self. On the other hand, though, he can also be impenetrable, so invulnerable. So essentially, nothing will break through his skin. He could literally take a nuke and just still be standing there perfectly fine, just maybe smoking a little bit. Immortality. So when he takes this Larviton princess style, he literally just jumps away, kind of like Superman, except for he can't fly, so he lands off. But they don't see this, and the thing is, like, Miss Barrow doesn't realize this, but she's like the first mortal to actually see one of these gods. And he flies away. But as we learn, what this shadow creature is doing here is he took this girl that was important to. She's kind of like this fourth character, I guess, to this group, like their friend, but more important to Larviton than the other two, and she ends up just disappearing and being taken by the shadow creature. Uh, the To explain what these creatures are and what's going on, these are what are I like to call time shadows. There are two types of time shadows, and these are type 2. I'll probably explain type 1 way later down the line. Type 2 shadows, the time shadows or you should mention, time shadows in general are usually controlled as a hive mind. They're all these like shadowed creatures where essentially it's if you were to be like they infect and create more that way, but if you were to become one of them, then you would essentially just be still your figure, but it's all like a shadowy black form that almost, when you get close, is actually hardened and kind of almost like crystallized glass that's cubic in a way, like very small pixely. Um, and they're all connected to either the type 2 are connected to kings and type 1s are connected to queens. The thing about type 2s is that they are not as infectious as type 1s. They infect by having to actually inject their own blood into you. And not like they can't just put their blood in your mouth. Like they have to inject a good specific amount into you so that the virus can take over. And all of them are just essentially connected to their king. The thing about type 2s is that they contain intelligence, they pertain their intelligence even after infection. So they are still able to use weapons, and they are usually very incredibly smart. Um, Not to mention, even like later down the, even like in the past, they seem to use, because they're time shadows, which we'll get to that in a little bit, but they use all different types of weapons, including guns and stuff, and it differs from type 1 because type 1 are more like zombies. But again, I'll get more into those guys later. Um, all connected to the king, though, which in this case is that giant shadowy figure that we saw, but they don't all look like that, I should be clear. Okay, I need to figure out my buttons. Who am I and what am I doing? I have a cat in my lap. I'm also not even doing storytelling. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by this one leg. I should just keep doing just random, just do like I've been doing. I'll go back on my ladder or something. I don't know. So the time shadows, why they're called time shadows specifically, is because they, in order to move, they can shift themselves through time, but they don't shift, like, they don't, like, go from, like, 1980s to 360 BC or anything like that. It's more of they, um, they like will shift to where that certain location they're in is like a bearing so that they can maneuver easier, and then they'll just shift back to the same exact time, and that's how they essentially maneuver and chase people and stuff. It kind of makes it hard to like lock them out of certain locations because then they can just teleport to when the location is destroyed, walk in, and then time travel back. And yeah, that's what makes them so deadly and dangerous. I feel like each one of these have a place that I'm not getting to or scrolling down. I wonder if it's the sides, the inner sides. That could be it. Now, thing is that once the Shadow King captures the girl, he just dips. He's got what he wants and he's gone, and the others just slowly start to fade out while the rest get killed. And our main characters go to catch up in the area that what's his face ran to. Now, as the God of Immortality lands in a very, very far away location, there's a person to meet him there, which happens to be the Goddess of Darkness, which from this point on we will just call her the Dimension Walker because that's what everyone else calls her. She's, to explain what she looks like, she has like at this point more galaxy, like looking into her hair kind of looks like looking into a not Milky Way, but a different, like a galaxy's gases and stuff, like a very gas, purple, blackish gas. Her eyes looks more like looking into like actual, like looking up at the stars and stuff, like more black with like a bunch of tiny white dots. And she has a lot of abilities, but the main ability she uses is that she opens up portals. But at this point, she's just essentially a full-on reality bender. She can do whatever she wants. She can control everything. She is an omniscient, omnipotent god. And she gives the God of Immortality a task to go and hunt down a certain person so that she can start handing out these amulets properly, and to, of course, leave the boy with her. Uh, as the boy begins to wake up, she offers him a proposition. Oh, I should mention that the god of immortality has obviously already met the Dimension Walker, because that's how he kind of like, it's hard to explain, but it's a way that he got the amulet. We'll mention that she never properly gives him that amulet. And when she actually meets him, she's very, very questionable about who he is, how he got one of the amulets and stuff, because throughout this war that we're going to get into in this story, these amulets were supposed to be given to very specific people that had personalities that kind of matched the original god's personalities. And so she's very confused, and I should have brought this up when I was ADHD, didn't think about it until just now, but she's very confused on, again, how he even got something like this. Like, there's no way someone would be able to have that type of power to come across one of these that, like, randomly like that. But she decides it's going to make it interesting and lets him keep it, and that's why she's sending him on these tasks, is that, he, in order to not get his abilities taken, he's doing favors for her and working as her little puppet. So the boy, Larvitum, wakes up, and she offers the boy a proposition. Essentially, he wants to save the girl, and it's going to be hard to do it when everything is more powerful than him, and he is just a weak teenager. And that's when she offers him the Amulet of Light, being able to control essentially all light in general, but also being able to move at the speed of light, which becomes the kind of main usage, is that it's the fastest one of all the amulets. Which is funny, the God of Immortality, strongest, God of Light, fastest, so first two that are given out are pretty much your basic tropes. So he gets that. He kind of wants to reject it, but at the same time, being a god, can't really turn that down. So he takes the opportunity to go and be a god and wanders into the desert. And at this point, he meets up with his old friend, and there he's kind of showing off. He's like, "Hey, check this out. I got an amulet and stuff." And not even 30 minutes later, as they're walking back to the village to go try to help things together and stuff, and he really I should mention him putting on the amulet and the feeling of this, right? Because it is kind of an important part. When putting on the amulet, it's not like he has to sit there and kind of question everything or figure it out. The second he puts it on, it's literally the feeling of going from nothing to absolutely everything that he could possibly be, every power he could possibly have. And with this, he can feel the speed, he can feel light, and how his body just wants to absorb it and eat every type of every solar ray, every light source. His body kind of feels not craving for it, but yeah, sure, craving for that essential, that one for that, lost in thought, one for light. And so he knows what he's capable of, and he's wants to show them all, but they're kind of just walking off and stuff, because he's the younging, and they're just kind of sick of his shit, so they're not even paying attention to him, because he's trying to be "Hey guys, I'm a god now, I can do cool stuff." They don't care, they don't even believe him. They're just so sick of him at this point. As they're walking back, not even 30 minutes later, they happen to run into another god that just got their amulet, funny enough. And this happens to be the god of fire. As the god of fire comes in, she has, if you could guess, she has red hair and green eyes, which, if I remember correctly, is really rare, but dark skin though. She like waves a giant fire flame at him. I should also mention that like the two Miss Barrow and Blake are wearing kind of more like light armor and stuff. It's like a couple like badges and things like medals and things like that. While the boy is like wearing not rags but just kind of basic trouser and cloth shirt, has like a belt with a satchel type thing. This girl though, who like comes in, the god of fire, she's like dressed in like royalty, proper silk, she's got like jewelry all over and stuff, and even though like as she like walks up to them and stuff, and her hands are like caked in fire going up all the way her arms, and even though like her like top is all silk and stuff, it doesn't like burn through any, I should say silk and leather, but it doesn't burn through any of the clothing. It's kind of like it's perfectly like the fire is like almost unfazed by this. How can I get closer to that? I know, hold on. Um, so it's like it's pretty obvious that while these guys are like from a small village and are like warriors and stuff, she's like a proper royalty. And she comes in and just literally walks up and just starts waving giant waves of fire that essentially are almost undodgeable. And as like the first wave gets closer, Blake just kind of smirks because he can like put up a shadow that's going to like put up a bunch of shadows that are going to block the way for him. I should mention the shadows are not like the time shadows. The time shadows are again more glassy. His shadows are literally more foggy but solid in their own way. Oh. But Miss Barrow's like of course afraid. She thinks she's gonna like get burned alive and stuff, doesn't stand a chance, and Larvitum rushes in with his super speed like Flash and just moves them out of the way, and then runs up and just straight up punch her because he's a kid. He doesn't have he has like fighting, but not with really weapons. He's more kind of like the local farmer's boy bullshit. So he's not really much of a fighter. So he goes up and just punches her and stuff. And she, like, as he goes up, he like and he punches like goes to punch her. She has heat radiating off of her, which at the distance that she was when she threw the fire, they weren't close enough to really tell because again they are in a desert. But as he gets closer to her to throw this punch, his skin just starts to boil almost immediately and stuff. And now he has super speed. And so as soon as he was about to throw the punch, he actually gets out of there before even making contact. But essentially, he almost got, like, he still, like, burnt up his right arm and stuff. And now he's damaged. He's not prepared for a fight like this. But like I said, Blake just standing there is, Blake is. So he sends out three shadows behind her, and they just, one of them has like a giant sword sweeping down, while the other two have like shields and spears and are like poking at her sides and stuff. And she blasts smokes, and while it kind of like it seems to damage and slow them, she still gets like stabbed and slashed at as she dodges out of it and stuff. And so she starts bleeding. But they're not really too bad cuts compared to, like, let's say, I don't know, Larvitum's burnt fucking arm. But it is enough to make her reevaluate that these just aren't random people that she's fighting. Is it getting dark? There was a dark time in this game. And so Blake and her kind of start dueling out with like shadows popping out, and her kind of sweeping fire waves at them while jumping away from them, using like fire blast from her feet to kind of like super speed jump away from them. And but every time that she tries to get closer to Miss Barrow, who is again trying to tend to the boy, who, as his power is, as like he sits there in light, and specifically sunlight, it seems to be absorbing into his skin and slowly but surely healing him faster than a normal human, at least. So he's sitting there out of the fight. Miss Barrow's attending him, and Blake's just kind of setting shadows out. Now, while Blake can kind of hold back the God of Fire, as we get into this, you kind of learn that no god could be killed unless killed by another god. And so Blake is really not able to, like, after those initial slashes, he's not really able to aim a shot after her. Every time one gets into her, it seems like in their heat field, she can kind of sense them. And so she'll like start arcing a blast of fire towards them, and at the same time using those blasts from her feet to dodge. But as Blake starts to realize that he might not be doing well into this fight. He starts talking to Miss Barrow, saying that he thinks that they might start thinking about an escape plan or some way to at least avoid this fate. And she agrees and stuff. And as Larvitum start to feel better, he decides to so again, mentioning that he absorbs light, he tries to hone in on this ability, understanding that he can absorb more light than this, because again, he has a really good understanding of how his powers work and stuff. And this is something that becomes pretty much known to all gods, is that once putting on the amulet, you get almost an instant understanding of your abilities and what you can actually do. One of the things he does is that he starts absorbing all of the light in the area and stuff, to the point where even though the sun's not actually going dim, the area around the people seems to darken a little bit, with, weirdly enough, around Miss Barrow seems to get a lot brighter, because Larvitum, his like whole body starts to just shine like a fucking, like a light bulb. And as he like goes like brighter and brighter, and it gets darker and darker. While the area gets darker, what they're seeing, like what everyone in the area is seeing, is literally just a giant, like nothing but bright white light. Because Larvitum is shining so bright at this point that they can't see anything. Funny thing about Blake is, again, he controls shadows, and one of his weird abilities is that he can see through shadows, through his shadows that he summons, and their vision is not the same as human. They see more of a darker gray and black world. So they don't get affected by this, using this to his advantage. He starts using certain shadows to attack and slice at the God of Fire, and the God of Fire just kind of just flies away Iron Man style. He's like, nope, I can't do this. My eyes hurt. I'm gone. I'm out of here. I don't want to deal with this anymore. Now, finally, Blake and Miss Barrow can finally realize that Larvitum wasn't lying. He has some type of abilities, and this is where we get into the explanation of how he actually got introduced to the goddess of dimension. So you gotta realize she's not a normal sight for humans to be seeing. Gods, like, well, this universe pretty much ran equal to ours up to this point. Which maybe in part two I'll be able to give you an actual time period, but right now I don't know a good date to give you, so I'm not going to give you a date yet. But we're talking like early Egyptian era, or like before, like right before the Middle Kingdom, Middle era of Egypt. Um, so as he like begins to come to from like being aggressively attacked before he got the amulet, attacked by those shadow creatures and stuff, he comes to the site of like he's in like a kind of cave with like light pouring in. He's up against the wall. Across from him, also on the floor, sitting though against the wall, is Dimension Walker and stuff. As comes to and sees her, he starts screaming and stuff, and she's just like, "Oh my gosh, please shut up! Like no one wants to. I'm not a danger to you. What the fuck are you doing?" As he begins to calm down, she explains that she is the Dimension Walker and the ruler of this universe, and she has come with a gift for him, a gift to become more powerful than his friends and way more powerful than his foes. As he questions who she is, she says that he can refer to her whatever he wants. Just know that she is essential. She's God. Yeah. He's skeptical, says he doesn't really believe it. I mean, come on, who's just out here? I mean, she looks weird, but she's also just out here offering to make him God or powerful, essentially. That's weird. He's questioning it, but as she gets up, she says that a friend of hers brought him to her, and we're lying to the god of immortality, who's not her friend. And she offers to show him, like, essentially what he would be looking at, like he could do and stuff. As she like holds out her hand, and a ball, like a glowing ball, starts to form as it grows brighter, and she says that she will offer him the ability of light and all control over light. With this, he will be able to retrieve his little girlfriend and save the day and be a true hero to his village. At the hearing this and seeing that she is not just a tricky of light or something and can actually have power, he decides to agree with it. So she gets up and just slips the amulet, like doesn't even show it to him, just slips it onto him. Um, I should have mentioned what these amulets look like. I'll go back to, or hers is kind of like Saturn, but instead of having like one ring, it has two rings, and it's like this purplish blue color with metal ringlets outlining. Ooh. And then the God of Immortality's amulet is kind of like a three-pointed, or like a three top point knight shield with a point at the bottom, like curves into the bottom. I think you know what I'm talking about. It's kind of like silverish white crystal with like this blue cross crystal going through the shield. And then the amulet of light, or the God of Light's amulet, is essentially just like a drawn sun with these. It's an all yellow crystal with the lines outlining the sun and everything. And she gives him the amulet so that he can become a god. And as I'm losing my mind here, I'm going to kind of end it there, with him explaining to them how this all went down, her slipping it on him, and then, obviously he just wanders out and goes meets his friend. Yeah. Now, hopefully next time we'll actually get like a thing written down that I can read off of. But I do plan on doing a lot of this, at least going through the whole series. And like I said at the start, it will all be live stream. Now, there's a chance I will have my fiance come in and edit these down and upload them in a easier format, because got a lot of ums and uhs in there, and so not to mention a lot of spaces where I just kind of lost my train of thought washing the Sentinel thing here. So look forward to that. And yeah, you're probably mad, but it's at 93. So, I don't care. And yeah, that's about it. I